playing in a place that was, pretty hot little bar on Madison Avenue in Memphis. It was called the High Roller, and the Police even played there, which is outrageous to me because Roxanne was out. It was a hit, and they were still playing small venues like that. I think Stink was Stink. Stinky. I used to call him Stinky.
Oh.
I met them backstage too. Also, my girlfriend worked for another promoter in Memphis, and he called her up one day. Her name was Kristen. He wanted to know if Kristen would go to. Let's see, which auditorium was this in? Was in the Pyramid then, or was it in? I think it was in what they call North Hall Auditorium. It's downtown. And the Police were playing, and I said, "Shite, really?" And he said, "Yeah." And Eddie Scruggs wanted me to put together a backstage cold cut plate for them. I said, "You're kidding? You're going to take your cold cuts to the Police?" Jeez. I said, "Well, get the good stuff, whatever you do." Of course, he didn't give he gave her like, $5, $6. And that was all he gave her. He can't buy anything for that, even then. So anyway, she made the cold cut plate, and then we drove down there, well before the show, and went backstage because we could. I don't remember. I think we had passes of some sort. And they had a tiny little dressing room, and I was close enough to throw a piece of cold cut, to Sting and Andy Summers and the drummer, whose name escapes me right now. Remember his name? His brother was
Stuart
their
Copeland,
road manager at that time.
Stuart Copeland.
I don't know. Copeland. That's it. Anyway, I was right there in the room with them, and it was funny. It was just, it's funny. She was handing the cold cuts to him, and I was just kind of watching. But I kind of stood away from her in case they really had a lot of criticism about the cold cuts, so they wouldn't associate me with the cold cuts. I didn't want to be lumped in with the meat.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so
then
back to Jerry Lee, if you like.
Back to Jerry Lee Lewis. So
we were playing this place. Like I said, Police played there. A lot of big acts played there. The Romantics, you may remember them. They got pretty big. They had a hit record. They played there. We used to open for a lot of big people. We would get that. I'm not sure why. I guess I started out that way. My first Coliseum was for the Vanilla Fudge when they had that huge hit. That was that Supreme song, "Keep Me Hanging On." You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, that was a huge hit, and the Coliseum was packed. And Thomas Edison opened for them.
Wow, that's early.
That was my first view of a Coliseum, was opening for them. I'll tell you about that gig another time. We had a lot of fun on that one. But back at High Roller with Jerry Lee. Jerry Lee comes in. He always had an entourage. He had a guy acted like a road manager, and he paid him. His name escapes me right now, but he's on my Facebook page. He wrote to me and wanted me to call him, and he's some years older, at least 25 years older now, and I don't know. I was just leery about him because of the Jerry Lee was a dangerous man. Some of the stories. So
right.
He was very dangerous, and so that night. We did this song called "Girls Get Sleepy," and I'd go nuts on it. Punk rock was still big, and edgy new wave, and we got real edgy, and we're doing all kind of things. I had a breakaway bottle I used to get broken over my head, a breakaway wine bottle. Nobody knew Hollywood had those breakaway bottles, but I did. So we were doing things like that, getting them sent to us so we could do the breakaway bottle over each other's heads and stuff. And people would just freak, because it looks real. Anyway, we were doing that kind of thing. We were doing this, it's a pretty decent rock song called Girls Get Sleepy. And I could still do it today. I think it still holds merit. But when we do the song, I get down where I'm starting to go crazy on the vocals, screaming that girls get creepy when girls get sleepy, yada, yada, yada. And I ended up falling down off the stage. I fall off the stage with the microphone, and I get to the floor, and I had that Les Paul then, to protect me. And the Les Paul would kind of break my fall, and I'd fallen off the stage onto the dance floor. There wasn't anybody dancing, but Jerry Lee was back there, and I should preface this with, whilst we were playing the first set, and then we would save that one for the second set and the third set.
Right.
And while Jerry Lee was back there, boy, he'd walk in with a bottle of scotch or a bottle of whiskey, and didn't think anything of it. Didn't matter that it was illegal. It's Jerry Lee Lewis. He did anything he wanted to.
Yeah.
So he just walked in. He had a real pretty, beautiful winter coat, so it was in the winter. And he walked in there, and he came in with a couple of girls. And I swear to you, I'm not making this up. Within an hour and a half, he'd gotten into fights with both of those girls at that table. And, nobody was looking at us because they were all looking at Jerry Lee and what was going on back in the back of the room. And he'd get into fights, and the girls would get so mad, they'd pick up glasses and throw them at him. And, it was quite a show. And we were nowhere near as exciting. And so we watched, he had his crew with him, and that guy that I was telling you about. And, we saw the first girl picked up by both her hands and her feet and drug out of the place, at all fours, Two guys had her arms and the other two had her legs, and she sprawled, and they're carrying her out the door to get her away from Jerry Lee so he doesn't kill her or she doesn't get killed,
Vice versa, yeah.
So that was the first one. And then I swear, in 30 minutes of the next set, he got into another fight with the other girl. And then the whole routine started all over again. So I don't know if this is one of Jerry Lee's bad nights or one of his good nights, I'm not sure how he would judge. He probably didn't judge at all because he'd have so much to drink,
Yeah.
And he just didn't have any judgment. He just did what he did, So anyway, I do Girls Get Sleepy, and then I think we finished the night with it. We hadn't done it, so it must have been the third set. And so I do my whole routine on the floor, and I'd have to do it to know what I do. I don't remember what I did. And then I'd stand up and I'd run back to the stage and leap back on top of it and end it on that stinger right at the very end.
Yeah.
Man, Jerry Lee goes nuts. He starts screaming, "How you going to follow that? How you going to follow that? You can't follow that. How you going to follow that?" And he's just screaming and waving his arms, and oh my God, he's coming towards me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to get back to the dressing room, And so I go around the curtains and I go back there. He follows me back there. And he just goes nuts. And the whole time I'm just thinking, he's got a gun in his pocket. I know he might have two, And I'm thinking, if he didn't like it because he liked it too much, he might shoot me just for doing it, because it was good, and it bothered him. But the road manager brought him in because he said, this band, you got to see it. Because it really was a great band. It was Steve Merrigan on drums, and I know you don't know him, but that live show, you've heard some of those.
Right.
It was that group. I didn't have Tommy Priakas yet. But anyway,
Yeah, Tommy's great.
so he comes back there, man. He just starts raving all over me, and I'm going like, well, Mr. Lewis, can I call you Jerry? Do you mind? Go, sure, boy. And he puts his arm around me, and I'm like, oh my God. Now he's got me close enough to shoot me in the fucking head, And I mean, I really was concerned. I really was, because I knew he was really drunk, and one wrong word, he shot his bass player at his house, because he said something, and I never forgot that, and he didn't go to jail for it either, because the bass player didn't press charges. So that's all I could think about. That's how scary that was. But anyway, all went well, and he just congratulated, wanted to shake my hand, and said, man, I'm going to come see you again. And I knew he wouldn't remember anything he said, but that's what happened. And it was really scary. It was a scary night, but it ended scarily interesting like that.
Wow.
So that's my Jerry Lee Lewis story.
That's awesome.
Wow.